Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the new PMP Beast Prime, which is a huge, very thick, I'm going to put this in the category of overbuilt folding knives. It's overbuilt in the terms of like the thickness of the materials. Everybody's got a different definition of that. So this is in the category of knife where, you know, it sort of, it confuses a lot of people. It seems to open up, some people look at it as an opportunity to teach or inform. I'll go ahead and cover all the bases here. So knives like this, excess materials in terms of thickness does not equate to extra durability. Not really, right? In fact, most of the time it actually creates a hindrance, not only in terms of weight and just the overall space it occupies in your pocket, but also, I mean, in this case, the blade is very, very thick, and the grind, even being hollow, is very thick. And either way, you end up pushing a pretty massive wedge of material through whatever it is you're cutting. Now, I don't really need to say that because I think especially people who watch my channel know that. If you felt like you were about to say the same thing as me, something that you should understand is the people who pick this stuff up, who buy this stuff, because this is not a cheap knife. The people who buy this stuff are people like me who they understand that this is like way outside of the realm of general utility, and they just like it for it's just the novelty of it. It's just fun. I love overbuilt knives. As somebody who fully understands the benefit of something like the Opinel for its, cutting geometry, I fully understand the benefit of that, but I still am attracted to stuff like this, or I enjoy stuff like this as an enthusiast because it's just funny. It's almost like so far the other direction of, the purpose of a folding knife, which I just find it interesting. So if you find stuff like that interesting, I'm going to talk about this knife with that being the general air of this, but still I want to talk about practicality and stuff like that. So thank you so much I assume that this was PMP Knives for sending this in. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me, and please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. This is available. It's absolutely available right now. I'll link it right down in the description. It does help my channel when you use those links, but that's entirely up to you. Let's go ahead and get a measurement. Not a small knife. Overall length is 9 inches. Blade length, 4 inches. Cutting edge, 3.85 inches. How about some size comparisons? I think first we should put it up against the knife it's modeled after, which is the Alpha Beast. So overall lengthwise, it's very, very similar, right? Now where it differs is thickness. The PMP Alpha Beast, it says like, oh, you think that a 1/4 inch blade stock is near useless? Hold my beer. This is 0.4 inches, right? So this goes far. And if you didn't know that knives like this exist, this is PMP going, yeah, we know it's a joke. We're just making it that much more crazy, right? There's tons of stuff like this out there. Examples of companies going far and beyond just for the fun of it. And I am so glad that stuff like this exists. It's hilarious. But we have very nearly a 1/4 inch stock here. And this guy is much, much, much thicker. But this is essentially a much more wieldy Alpha Beast. And compared to the new ones, it's also a much more affordable Alpha Beast. But it's still very, very expensive. Don't go down to my comments and say, affordable? You say this is affordable? Listen to what I'm saying. I'm saying it's less expensive than the Alpha Beast. All right, let's go ahead and do some size comparisons up against some more common knives. So up against, where's my Demco? There it is, the Demco AD10. Any custom scales in this section you can find right down in the description under Original Goat and others. And I don't know where the titanium one ran off to, so we'll use the G10 AD 20.5. So you can see here it's actually dwarfing the AD10, not only in terms of overall length, but absolutely in overall thickness. I mean, the AD10 is no slouch of a knife, but I mean, in terms of thickness, but about the AD10's more capable in terms of long-term dependability. Yeah, we covered that. Remember right at the beginning of the video. I'm just imagining like people who can't help but like force that through. Just like a bulldozer. Like, no, it's already paved. No. All right. Anyways, let's put it up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3. I don't do that enough anymore. You guys keep asking me to do the voices and mock people. I don't do it as much anymore. I've had so many less spaghetti wizards in the comments. It's just hard to, I don't have a reason to come up with new voices, right? So it's obviously bigger than the PM2 and Para 3. Let's put it up against the Benchmade Group Chilean, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue and the Hogue Deca. Here we go. Okay. How's the action? Honestly, the action is about what you'd expect. That blade will come down with a lot of force. Number one, it is smooth in the pivot, but number two, we just have a lot of material ready to come down. I'll tell you what pisses me off. PMP, what were you guys thinking when you made this sharp ledge right here? No, that's terrible. This is so sharp, unbelievable. I mean, you guys know how to do this. Look at the Alpha Beast. It's not the same thing at all, right? The other one is like a hollow scallop, and there's just a ledge, right? This is like a gradual. It doesn't matter that the lock bar is that much thicker. The way that they did it is different. It's just substantially more comfortable. Number one, it should be knocked out a little bit more on this side so that this side can peek up a bit. And number two, this is just a sharp ledge. Literally one time disengaging this lock and you will have a good cleave in your thumb from disengaging that lock bar. That's crazy. Lock bar tension, fortunately, isn't all that insane. And there's no double clutch, but I'm just nervous about having my finger here because you really have to have it in exactly the right spot to make sure that the blade doesn't come down on your finger. That's a lot of blade, and it is very smooth, ready to come down. So a couple of things I think could have been better there. Number one, just give us a forward choil. Just give us a forward choil. The freaking thumb stud's already in the cutting path. Give us a forward choil. Give us an area, a bigger safety zone for people who like to disengage with one hand, right? Now, the safest way to do this, obviously, is to disengage with two hands and close it like somebody who's not a complete psychopath, right? But if you're like me and you open and close it like a psychopath, you can be a little bit dangerous. So just, take that for what it's worth. But the action itself is very good. And fortunately, the thumb studs are massive, which means they're actually very comfortable in terms of a means of manipulation for this knife. Reverse flicking it. The detent on it, I think, is also appropriately tuned. I mean, honestly, it's a really good detent. It really does feel good. So there you go. Action, good, but disengagement of the lock bar is a huge problem. Thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3 for people who are actually going to buy this and carry it, right? Yep, it's thick. Length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. So, yeah, it's also tall and long. Look, this is a lot to dedicate to, right? If you want to force this into a role in your day-to-day life, right? Whether maybe you want to pretend that this is the best object for some specific task. You know what? Hey, knock yourself out. I think it's fun to carry big, crazy, aggressive knives, right? For me, it's kind of like, I know that this is more of an inconvenience, but I'm carrying it because I think it's cool. Some people will buy and carry these like really convincing themselves that that they need this. You go right ahead and you knock yourself out. I'm not going to tell you how to enjoy this hobby. You do whatever you want to do, right? But either way, whether you acknowledge it or not, this is a lot of knife to dedicate to. Now, if you're well practiced in the art of filling your pants with inconvenience, cold steel, 4 max, 5 max, cold steel Espada XL. Those guys, if you're well versed in that art, right? You're still continuing on with your pretendathon, then this won't really be that much different for you. It probably will feel pretty familiar. For everybody else who just carries a regular knife, this will be, for the most part, a massive inconvenience in your pocket. But again, carry what you like. I do. I carry stuff that's crazy inconvenient, every few days, and it's just fun. So I get it. How about we weigh it? What are the materials? Titanium and CPM 3V, which is kind of the right steel for this, but also kind of not. What is the right steel for a blade that's this thick with a compound Tanto blade? I don't really know. I'm a design reviewer, and I think that anything that this could possibly be optimized for would be better suited for a fixed blade, right? Which I'm sure the comment section is already loaded with that exact comment, right? It's not a unique thought. We all know that. He's feisty today. The weight on this is coming in. Oh, we shorted out there. Honestly, a surprising 8.5 ounces, which is nowhere near as, crazy as, like, for example, the Alpha Beast, which weighs almost double. Crazy. Yeah, as far as the overbuilt knives go in the production knife world, this is one of the more wieldy, one of the more carryable options, right? Specifically up against some of the thicker stuff out there. So, okay, not absolutely insane. I'll tell you what is absolutely insane. What size of fastener should we use for this? How about T6? PMP. Why? Why would you put T6 on this? Insane. Come on, man. Unreal. Let's get out my tools and do a hardware check. As per usual, my tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. I'm going to put them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use in this channel. I just realized the pivot is probably a T10, which is just... All right, like the T10 pivot, that makes sense. Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm just wrong. It is a T8. I mean, they're not going to do a T9. I mean, who does a T9? Nobody does a T9. Okay, so the pivot is definitely a T8, and so you got to have it on both sides, right? But the body screws, I'm not even going to check them. I'm just angry about that. 2 T6 screws, PMP. What is wrong with you guys? Come on now, T6 on this. I don't like T6 on anything, but T6 on the Beast Prime, jeez. As long as you have the right tools for the job, you should be good to go, right? Can you flip this over to the other side? Well, yeah, probably technically, but it's going to be curved the wrong way, right? So just weird. I imagine this lips into the frame somehow because it can't be just these two screws holding this in back here. So you probably have lipped, sort of, there's just like, it's like pegging into itself. I forget what that's called. But yeah, it's minimal hardware still. It's just a questionable fastener type. So weird, right? I mean, if you strip these, you're gonna have to find exactly the same size and length of screw because I don't know if PMP is going to be able to just replace them for you, right? So yeah. Anyways, let's go ahead and measure the blade stock thickness. So the blade stock thickness on this guy, I think it comes in at something like 230 thousandths, which is pretty thick. Yeah, almost exactly. 229 thousandths. That is, for reference, thicker than the Medford Praetorian T or Hinder XM24. Not quite as thick as the Medford Praetorian Tie, which comes in at like 260 thousandths, right? Just over a 1/4 inch. So this is approaching a 1/4 inch, right? Very thick. Okay, meat and potatoes time. Ergonomically, how is it? It would be great if it wasn't for this very strange clip. This is like a Jason Voorhees machete clip. It kind of goes with the theme, and they got this the drainage holes, just like the blade. I'm kidding. I think these are actually for weight reduction. I think if these were filled in, it would actually weigh quite a bit more, but it's just kind of the aesthetic that I've expected from this Beast family of knives. This would be a lot better if the clip were shorter and not so pronounced. It gets kind of thin up here. Really, the whole thing is just a huge bother in the hand. Which is a shame because the frame itself really isn't that bad. I mean, it's nicely knocked down at the edges. Look at this. It's really nicely knocked down. The frag texturing is honestly pretty good, right? It looks cool. The knife definitely looks cool. It looks the part. It looks like a big overbuilt. I mean, like when you think PMP and you think Beast, if you're familiar with the brand and the model, you're thinking about a pretty aggressive knife, right? And this fits the mold. It does that. But I mean, there will be people who do want to carry and use these as massively inconvenient as they are, right? So this pocket clip, it just doesn't work very well. I just don't really like it all that much. The rest of it I think is fine. I think the overall profile of the handle is cool. I think the jimping on the blade, you know, that works. Like ergonomically, it's outside of the pocket clip. It actually works just fine, right? The blade, like I said, it has the speed holes, really just most likely weight reduction. It's kind of annoying that we didn't get a big forward choil. And again, a lot of my nitpicks like really apply more to like practical knives. Right? Do you need a forward choil on a blade like this? Like what kind of detail work am I doing? Fair enough. But the thumb stud is so massively in the cutting path, and really, realistically, what I want it for is safety, for single-handed disengagement, so that I have a larger area where I am not bringing a nearly quarter-inch slab of steel, sharpened steel, I might add, down on my finger. How dangerous could it be? Everybody knows that thick knives can't really slice. They're not really all that slicey. Oh, yeah. It turns out, actually, this is something I always make fun of, right? There's a lot of great content creators out there, some great reviewers. I'm friends with a ton of them. I'm not friends with the guys who do cut tests like this. This knife is too thick. As you can see here, look at this. What kind of cut test is that? Hold it right. Hold it right, you cave person. My God. Come on, have some responsibility. This is hollow ground and then flat ground, and it does come to a thin enough, I'm not going to call it a super thin edge, but it comes to a thin enough edge that it's definitely sharp. So don't get this out of the box and, it's not sharp enough to cut my finger. I'll tell you what, if you disengage that lock bar and you let that thing come down, flying down on your finger, you're going to the hospital. You're going to pay more for stitches or to reattach your finger than you will for the knife. So just be cognizant of it, okay? All right. Satin finish, kind of boring. It's okay, though. 3V, is that the right steel? I don't know. I mean, 3V is not stainless. Super tough, right? I think it's more suited for a fixed blade. So the question is, what is the right steel for this? I don't know, because I don't think that it's a very practical thing. At this price point, we, as collectors and enthusiasts and user hybrids, we want a premium steel on this stuff because we are paying a lot of money for it, right? But then it's like, which one? Because none of them really make sense at this geometry, so I don't know. Is 3V a good choice? Yeah, I'll tell you what, it's certainly better. It tickles the fancy better than D2, which is what they put on the original Alpha Beast, and a lot of their stuff that they do is D2, and that just doesn't sit well. So 3V sits better than D2 for me, for sure. Huge flat, huge aggressive swedge up here. Honestly, the blade does look cool. It's a cool looking, wicked, nasty looking blade. And that's kind of, the people who buy this stuff, this is what they want, right? It says PMP Beast Prime, a little bit of oil right here, no big deal. You can see there, 3V. That is not Chinese 3V. That's not a thing. PMP is buying CPM 3V from Crucible, just like, you know, there's no Chinese 20 CV. They're also buying that from Crucible. So the blade material is USA steel. That's really it for the blade. The blade is exactly what you'd expect it to be. Here's something that I find problematic when you have really wide frames to compensate for a very thick blade and you don't use the backspacer to cover this area. You can touch the edge, and I can touch the edge all the way down to about right here. It's actually really close right here. So that's a problem. We should have U-shaped this backspacer and run it all the way up to about right here so that the U shapes would accommodate for the edge being so close to the frame. But that could throw off the balance. The balance of an 8.5 ounce knife that's already, I mean, honestly, it's a little bit blade heavy. They had a little bit, they had a little bit of weight and balance to play with, right? But I mean, that's a silly thing to complain about on a knife that's already has the dimensions of something that's just it's a brick, right? So, okay, there's a lanyard hole for if you want to attach a lanyard to this. In and out of the pocket, it's pretty pinchy, right? This was was not the most enjoyable carry experience. I could only handle this thing for about a day and a half before I was like, no, I'm tired of this. I mean, it is definitely easier to carry than a lot of the other overbuilt knives that are on the market, right? But it still was just a huge inconvenience. I'm used to carrying like a maximum size of something like the Ritter Hogue or like the Ritter Hogan tie or the Hinder XM18 3.5 inch, right? So this is way over that line for me. We have a huge stop pin, lots of shouldering. The knife runs on bearings and has absolutely no blade play up, down, left, to right. Great lockup geometry. I mean, this thing absolutely is not going to come undone with that light to medium spine whacking that we that I like to use on this channel. I'm not gonna beat on this thing like I'm not gonna somebody would use a sledgehammer on a railroad tie. I'm not gonna do that. But this will hold up to what you'd expect it to hold up to, right? Again, companies like this do not create knives with ultra thick materials to insinuate that this is somehow stronger or more durable than something like the Cold Steel Triad Lock. I think that's a knee-jerk reaction for people seeing stuff like this for the first time. These companies are not doing that. They're not trying to, befuddle people or trick them or swindle them into thinking that. Anybody who's already familiar with these brands or has been looking at them for a while, has been buying knives in this territory for a while, they already know exactly what they're looking at, right? So that's just going to be the case. And if you didn't know, if you're one of the few people who didn't know them, now you do. Steel lock bar insert that doubles as the over travel stop. No lock stick. No double clutch. No pivot lash. Very, very smooth and consistent in here. Honestly, a really nice detent for such a large, awkward blade. And it is perfectly centered with no detent lash. What's the price on it? $399. Now, normally I'd say that's competitive when you're looking at other almost novelty overbuilt knives, right? We do have premium materials. We do have an interesting build. We have premium fit and finish, right? Miguron is making similar stuff for about $100 less. M390 milled tie, $100 less. So after Miguron and again, that's a Chinese OEM. This is what we're looking at, Chinese OEM, right? You try to do the same thing in the United States, it's going to cost way more money. And no, I'm not just talking about 3V and titanium. I'm talking about these dimensions, right? That's a lot of extra 3V and titanium. You make 3 blades out of this, right? It's a lot of titanium and it's a lot of extra machining. Costs a little bit more to do. You try to do this in the United States, there's a company who does it. They're called Medford. Go look at their prices, right? It's going to cost a lot more. So when you say, I can get an American knife for that much, yeah, but you can't get an American knife for about, anywhere near really the same price as this. I think that Medford's 187 is like still $500, $550. But Miguron really showcasing what a Chinese OEM can do for just under $300. They can do almost the same thing. So it's really hard for me to call this a great value. If you just really like how this looks, fine. This is obviously not a knife that is like openly recommendable. You have to specifically want this PMP Beast family look. You have to love 3V. You have to love overbuilt knives, and you have to be okay with some of the quirky and unsafe features of this thing. If you're okay with all that, then hey, you got yourself a deal right here. If you just want like the best bang for your buck and an overbuilt knife, I think Miguron's doing it right now. So this is fairly high. I honestly would like to see these knives like this come down a bit. I'm kind of like rearranging my threshold for this style of knife down to about $350. So yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say. This is all right. It's just weird, right? It's not my favorite in the overbuilt family, but it is one of the easier to carry overbuilt knives for sure. Like I said, this will be linked down below, all the different variations of it. Thanks again to PMP for sending this in. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do of course have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.